afternoon, everybody, and welcome to what's actually the first in a whole series of webinars that we're hoping will demonstrate how Alma can support you as you face the challenges of providing an efficient library service to your end users in what I think we'd all agree is a rapidly changing environment. But today, for the first of these webinars, we're going to look at e-resource management. We're told over and over again as we go around visiting libraries across the whole of Europe that the majority is spending approximately 80% of their annual budgets on e-resources, and the usage is continually growing. There are hundreds of libraries worldwide using Alma to manage their e-resources collections effectively. And what I'm hoping to do with this session is highlight a few of the ways that Alma can support your library in the managing of your e-resources. I will endeavor to do this by addressing the common pain points that libraries tell us are the challenges that they currently face. So, over the next 45 minutes or so, we'll examine these pain points, which I think go under the following 6 headings: access to bibliographic data, license management, evaluations of your e-resources, the process of acquiring the e-resources, PDA, patron-driven acquisitions, and finally, looking at reporting about your e-resource provision within the library. So to start with, first section, access to bibliographic data. Often the starting point for the acquisitions process is the very time-consuming task of actually sourcing records. Although records are usually available from your vendor, they're not always in sync with your workflow in terms of the timely supply of MARC records. Alma offers support by providing a community catalogue of e-resource records drawn from the Alma central knowledge base. Ex Libris has fully integrated this central knowledge base into what we call the community zone or community catalogue. This means that when a package is activated in this central knowledge base, each of the individual titles are immediately available as library inventory. And furthermore, this information in the central knowledge base provides the data for the embedded Alma link resolver. So for those of you that are currently using a separate link resolver, a move to Alma means you get rid of managing one of those extra tasks. Alma's link resolver is fully embedded in the product. Now, obviously, I think it's fair to say the quality of these records is of paramount importance. So Alma has, or Ex Libris has, an ongoing project of merging eJournal records that we get from your vendors with records from Conserve. But additionally, and after consultation with our Alma user base, the community zone, the community catalogue where we store the data that we receive from the vendors, has now been opened up for community contribution. This means that where an Alma user finds a record that they are able to improve, so a record that has been supplied by a vendor but is maybe not as comprehensive as what we might want or as detailed, this Alma user can actually improve the record, and because it sits in this community catalogue, they are doing so for the benefit of all Alma users. Another advantage of the Alma community catalogue or community zone is that these records that we get from the vendors, that we allow you to improve if needed, are still maintained by Ex Libris And what we do is we update these on a weekly basis. So this means that if any changes have been made by the vendors, they will be automatically reflected in your collections where you have used the data from this community catalogue as a starting point. So this means that we're offering you quite a time saving, because you no longer need to manually process the changes that you get from the vendors. So whether it's additions or deletions that you're having to handle, we are carrying out that updating on your behalf. We also, though, provide what we call an update task list. So I suppose you could say you don't have to just trust us that the updates have been made. You can actually see what updates have been done, what's been updated, and in some cases there may be some work that you need to do anyway. Finally, and I think this particular feature sits within the bibliographic data side of things, Alma provides an overlap analysis. Before, I guess, any further steps are actually taken to acquire an item, it is always vital to check how many of the individual titles you can actually already access from existing products to which you subscribe. So let's have a look at some of these features actually in Alma. And for this afternoon, I will use a combination of some screenshots, but also taking you into the live Alma system. So for the screenshot we can see at the moment, the scenario that we have is that I, as the e-resources librarian, am about to start the process of ordering a new package from Gale Cengage. And what you can see on screen is a search of my local catalogue, what we call the institution zone in Alma terminology, and you should be able to see that I'm highlighting, in fact, the word institution on this tab on the screen. So I've done a search of my local catalogue, and I can see in the results list that I subscribe to 17 Gale Cengage packages. And we are planning to start a new subscription to Gale Cengage Religion Philosophy package. Now, I just want to draw your attention to these icons that we can see here in this result list. Now, and I will refer to them again. In the same search, I also have access to this community zone, to this community catalogue. You can see actually in the screenshot, we have a second tab here headed Community. And what I can do is I can move straight from the institution zone, my local catalogue, into the community zone, the community catalogue. So you can see that what we're now looking at is the community catalogue. And I can see that this community catalogue actually contains 65 records that match my search, that Gale Cengage search. You'll notice here we also find a number of the results have an icon attached to them. Now this icon, and indeed that reverse icon I'm going to call it, that we saw in the local catalogue, indicates that the record originated in the community zone. So while we're here in the community zone, the icon of the little library here tells me that I have this package in my local catalogue. When we looked in the local catalogue and saw the little icon against the titles, that was telling me that this subscription was linked to a record in the community catalogue. And what that means is that it will be automatically updated, as I mentioned a couple of minutes ago, ex libris carrying out the update of records on a weekly basis. It's also indicating, as we are here now in this screen in the community zone, which packages I don't subscribe to. So in the community zone, wherever I don't see the little library icon, this is telling me I do not have a subscription to one of these packages. And therefore, I could actually start the next stage of the process, which would be to order and activate a record from the community catalogue. You'll see that I've got an option to order, an option to activate from this point. Just for reference, while we're looking at some screenshots that give us details about the electronic packages, each collection has, as you might expect, a direct link to access the full list of titles contained in each package. So in this screen here, I'm looking at all of the portfolios, as we call them in Alma, that are part of the Gales Cengage Religion collection that I want to start a subscription to. And obviously, I could have searched by an individual journal title to get to this point as well. The next slide is a look at the update task list that I mentioned, which contains the details of all the automatic changes made to the EE resources. And on the screen that you can see here, I have used filters to display only collections where specifically the linking parameters have been updated. And to ensure I'm looking at the most recent updates, I can filter by date, in between two dates as well. Now, for the overlap analysis, which was the last of the features within this bibliographic records area, I'm actually going to take you into the live system because I want to show you how straightforward it is to carry out this particular task. So just bear with me while I move from slides to software. And here we are, ready to log in as my acquisitions member of staff into the latest, the June release of Alma. Okay, so I'm going to go straight to my Alma menu. And under the heading of resource management, where we have all the tasks that are related to cataloging and bib records, you can see I've got an overlap analysis. Okay. I'm actually going to say that I want to carry out a new report. So I'm going to submit a new report, and I'm going to do set comparison. Now, you'll see here in the top corner of the screen, Alma is going to step me through the processes here using a wizard. And you actually find this functionality in a number of places in Alma to help you go through various tasks. So I'm going to click on the next option, and I can define my source set. I think I'll just do my search. So what I'm doing here now is actually doing a search of my local catalogue. Let's do a very simple search. And let's choose that package. So notice I'm still being guiding through the processes. Click on Done. And I now want to define my target set. I'm just going to do one of each for this demonstration. And again, let's search for health. I'm going to compare. So we selected first time the Nursing and Allied Health Basic. And let's compare it with this package down here. Add selected. I am done. So now we can go through to the next step in our little wizard here. Do I want to change the report name to something slightly more memorable? Add a description? Do I also want to use date coverage in this comparison? I do. And I'm now ready to submit the overlap analysis. So you can see the one that we're working on is running here at the top, and I've got a little refresh button. So if I click on that, it's already completed. So now, by going to the view option here, I can see the range of reports that have been automatically generated for me, and we'll have a look at the complete overlap report. And it has opened the comparison for me in an Excel spreadsheet, which I will just open on screen here. It's just actually opening on another screen. I'm actually being very showy-offy and working with two monitors here. So let me just move this onto the monitor that you can see. There you go. And what we've got is, open some of these a little bit. In fact, that's not a bad match, really, is it, for complete coverage, just 15 titles. But we can see here this has carried out the overlap analysis for the two packages that we elected to compare. But I think you'll agree it's ever such a straightforward and simple process. So let's close that. And we will now carry on with the presentation. Okay. So the next area to look at in terms of the ways in which Alma can support you in your management from start to finish of your e-resources is in the evaluation side of things. I think an important element of any system claiming to be next generation is that it should be what we call a unified resource management system. I'm sure many of you have heard the term next generation and unified resource management over and over again. The unified resource management is about the management of all resource types in a single system. But what I like to think is that we can extend that definition to mean that we ensure that all the relevant tasks and data related to those resources are also managed in the same place. A case in point is trials and evaluations functionality. The ability to run a trial or an evaluation prior to the purchase of a very expensive resource significantly assists staff in the decision-making process. Alma includes really quite sophisticated trial and evaluation functionality as standard. This is not an add-on, this is a standard part of the system. So it means that the data relating to the selection and the purchase of a resource is kept in the same system as the acquisitions data, as any usage statistics. And I find that so, well, sensible. Let's take a look. So, you have a trial operator, as we call them in Alma, and the trial operator creates the trial and invites participants to take part. To invite these participants to take part, you reuse the contact data that's held in your user or patron file. You can actually open the trial to anybody rather than simply inviting individuals, if that suits your procedures. What the trial operator then does is, as we can see on screen, they create a survey form for the feedback. There is a knowledge base of questions to choose from, or they can create their own. But to be honest, the types of questions you ask will be repeated, I suspect, every time you run a trial. It's a little, I think, like products like SurveyMonkey, in that you can choose the question type as well. You can see on screen that we have examples of a simple yes-no question and a scale. You can also have free text responses. But what's really useful is that Alma then collects the responses, where your participants actually take part in the survey and give you feedback. Alma collects the responses. The operator can see a summary of the responses, and you can see the summary of responses on screen, can view the responses as graphics. It's all ever so straightforward, and it's such a simple idea, I think, to have it fully integrated into Alma. So it's always there, available for you to review at a later date, if needed. All right, let's move on to the next of our pain points. And this, I think, is pain that many of us share, and is certainly always a key area of interest when I am visiting libraries across Europe. This is not relevant just to one area, and that is the actual management of the licenses. How do you tackle e-resource management, I wonder? Back in 2010, there was a survey of e-resource librarians that discovered that 94% of the respondents to the survey were using spreadsheet packages to either supplement their own electronic resource management systems, their ERM systems, or were using spreadsheets as the ERM system itself. And when we are anecdotally told over and over again that libraries are easily spending up to 80% of their budgets on e-resources, it does seem alarming that these costly resources are being managed and monitored in such a rudimentary way. Even if the figure of 94% is a little out of date, it was a figure, as I say, that was discovered in 2010. Let's be honest, even if we were now at just 50% of libraries still managing their e-resources via spreadsheets, it would still, I think, sound somewhat worrying, especially when you consider the added value of an ERM system integrated into your library management system. So not just replacing a spreadsheet, but actually being part of your library management system or library services platform, in the case of Alma. As I go round talking to libraries about their needs in this area, the key challenges seem to be managing the license agreements, including any amendments, managing license terms and conditions, sharing those terms with the discovery system for your end users, and having these processes fully integrated into their workflow, which indeed Alma will offer you. So let's have a look at how Alma meets these challenges. And again, I will do this as a live demo. So within Alma, I'm going to our Alma menu, and I'm going to go straight into the licenses area. And what you can see in front is a list of all the licenses that we have within the library that I'm pretending to manage here. And I'm going to have a look at our Gale license. So if I just click on Gale here, I'm presented with, actually, you can see here with the tabs, 7 tabs where information is held. So let me talk you through those. The first tab, the summary, well, is exactly that. It's a summary of information about the license we have with Gale. The fact that it's active, when it started, do we actually have an end date for this overall license where we perhaps have an opportunity to renegotiate? And in fact here, where is the license physically held? Well, our signed copy is held in our finance office. Move on to the next tab, the license terms, possibly the most important of all these tabs. The ability to expose the key terms and conditions that relate to this license. So, Alma complies with the DLF, the Digital Library Federation's guidance for license terms. As part of the configuration of Alma, you decide which of these terms you're going to be using so that you don't have a long page of empty boxes. And in fact, with this release, with the June release, I think, of Alma, we have moved to actually be allowing end users to create their own license terms. Prior to that, we stuck very rigidly to the DLF guidelines, but based on feedback from our customer base, we now allowed you to create your own license terms as well. Most importantly, you can expose these license terms to your end users via the Primo Discovery interface. And I have an example of that to show you when I've finished going through this bit of Alma. So, next tab, inventory. Which packages are actually controlled by this license? So you can see that the Gale license, the Gale packages that we've assigned to this license. The ability to include details of any amendments to the license. A history as well. If you've got a number of staff who might be coming in and making changes or adding data to your license record, I think it's very useful to be able to see a history of who has done what. You've got a notes field, but this is actually a nice little feature to allow you to be carrying on a conversation, if you like, to exchange notes with other colleagues who are working in this area of the system. And then finally, attachments, the ability to attach anything in an e-format. Logically, I suppose this might be a soft copy of your license, but it could be discussions, a meeting you've had with the rep from your company, maybe you've made a note of it, and you want those discussions, those action points, the minutes of the meeting, to be attached to the record of the license. So that's essentially the license management functionality within Alma, all fully integrated as part of the acquisitions process. We'll see that in a moment. And one final thing I will show you, here we're looking now at a set of results from Primo, from the discovery system for Alma. And if I have a look at the View It area let me try that one again. If we just have a look at the View It area of this particular record, you will see that I have the option to see the license terms. And I think that, again, is a very useful feature. Okay, we'll go back into our slide presentation so that we can move back into, we can now look at acquisitions. So, acquisitions. The actual acquiring of your e-resource, often one of the pain points that libraries tell us about. As I mentioned earlier, Alma is what we call a unified resource management system, meaning, very simply, that it manages all the resource types and their requirements in a single system. It's also, as I said, a next generation system developed from scratch because the older generation of systems were designed for different processes. I suppose, as we're talking about e-resources, many of the older generation of systems were designed when e-resources probably meant a jukebox of CD-ROMs. Within Alma, this idea of being started again from scratch, being unified, it means that all of your orders, regardless of format, can be ordered using Alma acquisitions. Alma recognizes the format of the resource you are ordering and displays the appropriate input screens. And we'll just take a look at what I mean by this. Alma recognizes the resource type that we are ordering and suggests the appropriate order form. So here I have, from the list we saw at the beginning, from my community catalogue, chosen to order the Gale Cengage Religion Collection. And therefore Alma recognizes that this is an electronic collection and recommends two different order types that we will probably be wanting to use to place this order. There are other order types that could fit in, but what I would be doing is choosing the electronic collection subscription order type. What you can see on screen now is the next stage, is the purchase order screen for this particular resource. You can see that it has populated a number of fields. And importantly, here is where I make that link between this e-collection and the license. So you'll see that I have searched for and dropped into this record the Gale license we were examining a moment ago. And indeed, I can, with a simple click, view the license from this point. Down at the bottom of the screen, you can see here that we can also include renewal details. Renewals can be automatic or manual. You can also set up a reminder here. You say how many days in advance of the renewal date you wish to be reminded, and then you are reminded via what we call the Alma task list. Let me just show you that. So back into Alma. I'll get rid of that Primo now. So we're in Alma. Alma is a workflow-based system, and each named user who uses the system is provided with a task list, a to-do list, if you like. And so this task list here is reminding this particular member of our acquisitions team of a number of jobs that she needs to pay some attention to. And you'll notice here, actually rather a large number of items waiting for renewal, but she is reminded that there are order lines waiting for renewal, and a simple click on a line item in her task list takes us through to examine the list of items that now need to go through the renewal process. Just go back into our slideshow. One final comment I think it's probably useful to make is that cancellation of a resource, by the way, will automatically remove the descriptive record from the catalogue. Okay. Next pain point, and another one I hear very regularly when I'm out and about. PDA or DDA. Alma supports PDA. Based on the library's approval profile, the vendor will provide bibliographic records which Alma will automatically load into the library's local catalogue and make available through Primo for discovery. As users select the resources via Primo, the Primo and Alma interoperability will ensure that the management processing for ordering and invoicing is automated based on the library's business rules. In most cases, this can be a completely automated and unmediated process using both EOD, embedded order data, and EDI processors. This means that the library only has to set up access for the receipt of those vendor records. Usually this will be done via standard FTP processes, and rules internal to Alma for ordering, fund management, and payment. What else Alma can also do is alert staff if there's no more budget left for the program, as well as the ability to pause the PDA program until further funds are added. If you manage to get further funds, the PDA program can be resumed. So it's not cancelled, the data's not removed, but you pause it and then you resume it again. Let's just have a quick look at some elements of PDA in the live demo. So I'm going to, again, go to my Alma menu, and underneath the acquisitions heading, we've got PDA. We'll have a look just at this one at the top of the list, our Alexandra Street Press. And I'll just show you what's going on behind this Actions button. So as I said, as I stepped through the slide, Alma allows you to manage the PDA profiles, either automatically or indeed manually. Starting the process, you can import the orders, duplicate. You can pause, as I mentioned. Pause the PDA process, and as the tooltip shows you on screen at the moment, this will suppress all the unordered resources. But it can, of course, be restarted, which would, well, have the unordered resources available to be viewed again. You can terminate the process, and this is a nice feature that certainly creates some excitement when I show it in demos. This cleanup, a process that will permanently remove inventory items once the process of PDA has finished, but I will just cancel that one. Okay, let's go back into the slideshow, and just heading now towards the last of our pain points, which is how we manage the reporting side of things. Alma will work with your usage statistics. Usage statistics information supplied by your vendors can be loaded to Alma manually or automatically with the sorry, I managed to move backwards in my slides there, do apologize. So, as I was saying, usage statistics loaded to Alma manually or automatically with Sushi's automatic harvesting mechanism. A quick guide to the terminology here, if you're not familiar with what I'm about to start talking about. Counter. Alma is compliant for Counter, which stands for counting online usage of networked electronic resources. That's it. And Counter is basically a code of practice for how we count online usage statistics, so that we are all counting the same thing when we talk about online usage. And Sushi, as I mentioned earlier, that stands for, in fact, perhaps I should have done this as a quiz and got you to do this. But it stands for Standardized Usage Statistics Harvesting Initiative. And it's an ANSI NISO standard that defines automated requests and responses for harvesting e-resource usage data. And it is designed to work with Counter. Alma supports the load of Counter JR1. That is, if you're not sort of familiar with these different counter reports. JR1 is the number of successful full text requests by month and journal. And DB1, total searches and sessions by month and database. And we are expanding to include more reports, including BR reports. Those are, as you might guess, book reports, ebook reports. I'm not sure yet which ones we will be moving to support. As I say, the counter data can be loaded manually or via Sushi. And then what Alma will do with that information is it can combine with cost information about the packages so that you can look at analysis of cost per use, because we have linked that cost of the related titles with their usage. The way in which Alma offers you reporting functionality is by an area we actually call Alma Analytics, quite deliberately moving away from just the traditional description of reporting, because you can do so much more insightful analysis of data using Alma. So the analytics area provides usage statistics reporting capabilities that enable you to create reports such as usage statistics by journal, by database, publisher, platform, and subscriber. And the reports also enable the library to drill down on data elements included in the reports, such as year ranges and specific titles. Let's just have a look at a couple of examples. We'll go again into our live Alma. Now, as much as anything, for the sake of time, I'm going to look at some reports that we have out of the box, the reports that are already written and supplied to you as standard with Alma. And some functionality that Alma also supplies is this idea of dashboards where you can group together a number of related reports or reports that need to be perhaps viewed side by side. So let's have a look at our e-resource usage dashboard here. And what we should be able to see then is a number of the reports that relate to e-resource usage, and some of which will have been created via the loading of counter data. I'm using a demo system today, which is why it seems to be taking a minute or two to load. I should also say I'm working from my home office where I'm having to rely on local broadband. Okay, so we can see three, if you like, sheets of information in this particular dashboard. So you can see that we are able to provide analysis of the most frequently used journals, the least used journals, and to actually perhaps look at trends within this area. You'll see that we also provide reports that allow you to examine usage by particular publishers. And then finally, probably the most interesting of these reports is actually having a look at the cost usage. And I think this is such valuable information. So in our library, shall we say, in quote marks, we can see that compared to the amount of usage these particular journals get, which is the journal that therefore works out as having the greatest cost, and indeed because of the cost compared to how much it's used, which is the lowest cost for us within the library, as well as having a look at an average cost per use by journal title. So I think there's some very insightful reports that you can use to assess what's going on within your e-resource area, and will perhaps help you in decision making when it comes to renewal time. Okay, and just back to our presentation as we just come to the end of our time here. So in summary then, I hope that what I've been able to do over the last 45 minutes is successfully demonstrate that Alma can turn these pain points around to make them simply standard features, regular tasks that require no more effort than any other task within the library. And I think Alma is able to do that because of that unified nature, the fact that everything is in the one system, integrated where it needs to be, decoupled where it needs to be. Just to remind you, we looked at the use of the community catalog to streamline your search for bibliographic data. We looked at that real major pain point of license management, and I hope saw how easy it can be when it is fully integrated into your library services platform. We looked at what I think is quite unique functionality where you find it as part of the library management system, and that was the trial functionality in Alma. We looked at the acquisitions process. We saw how it is all integrated into one acquisitions process. We looked at the way in which Alma streamlines the management of your PDA services. And finally, we've just been looking at the in-depth reporting and analysis that can help you with evaluation and decision making.